Hey, how's it going, guys? Today's topic, I want to discuss what you must know if you're looking to leverage your 403(b) account and start to withdraw it for retirement income needs or just for retirement purposes to put you in a much better mathematical position. So I'm going to go over, some of the pros, some of the cons. What is the 403(b) account? But most importantly, what are the most common mistakes that an individual should avoid at all costs? If you're able to recognize what the landmines are and avoid those landmines, it will put you in a much better position. At the end of the day, what is the whole purpose of this account and for retirement in general? It's how can you live every single day at that point without financial stress and without deathbed regrets. So looking at it from a larger picture, from that 30,000 foot view, what are the different things? What are the different opportunities you could take advantage of? And how can you make sure that you customize everything correctly, as you start nearing that retirement stage? So really this video is meant for that individual that's a few years out from retirement. Maybe they're 6 months out from retirement, or they're currently retired and they understand they were working, in the public sector, either as a teacher, preacher, nonprofit organization, whatever that is, that made them eligible for 403(b) accounts. How exactly can you use those 403(b) accounts effectively in conjunction with if you're offered a pension plan or if you're looking to trigger Social Security income at a specific time? So how all of those work in tandem with one another. At any point in time, if you have any questions, simply give our 1-800 number a call. It's 1-800-566-1002, and you could ask to speak to a specialist and just make sure to reference this video. Or you could simply click on the calendar link, which is embedded in the description of this video. So what happens as you start nearing retirement regarding the 403(b) account and what's, essentially that future position that's going on? And what's happening is you're working for that public institution. You've accumulated dollars in your 403(b) account, where the way on how that account grew was the contributions you placed into that plan, the matching money, if the employer was giving you a match, that was what we're adding onto the contribution side, and then the rate of return based on those different investment options that you chose or are currently choosing. That's what's determining whether that bucket's going to be larger or it's going to be smaller. So if somebody was adding multiple, years of contributions in there and multiple years of matching dollars, but the market took a minus, 60% drop, well, your bucket's going to drop by what the market does. Just like if the market went up 30%, you're going to have a large growth into your bucket with the combination of the contributions and the rate of return that's coming back. So what happens when you start nearing that retirement stage is an individual, well, first off, they're not going to be taking on as much risk as if, let's say they were a 30-year-old and they realized they had 20, 30 years before they're going to hit that ideal retirement date. So they're going to start to scale back on that risk and try to be more conservative and get less volatile returns than obviously the more aggressive play. But they also realize that they're no longer going to be working. So when you're no longer working, you're no longer bringing on that occupational income. So now you have to rely on these buckets, these retirement accounts that you've accumulated, that you've saved, to last you for the rest of your life. Different things that help you out along that way. And it's really a case-by-case basis, but a lot of individuals that are offered 403(b) plans are also offered some sort of pension plan. So if you were working for your institution for, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, whatever that is, there could be a type of defined benefit in conjunction with your 403(b) account that you're eligible for. So what that means is if, let's say, you're 65 years old and you say, this is exactly the day or this is the exact year that I want to retire, I'm going to be triggering my pension income stream. I'm going to be triggering my Social Security income stream. So now those are two lifetime income cash flows that will be coming to you or you and your spouse for the pension plan. And what are my expenses? When you're no longer working and you're no longer generating that income, you need to rely on those cash flows, on those income streams and those remaining, savings, those remaining assets. So if your pension income stream and your Social Security income stream is not greater than or equal to what your expenses are, well, then you need to create a strategy to close up that gap. In addition to understanding what that income gap is, you should also be mindful of taxation. What is your taxation going to be on your pension income stream? What's your taxation, if anything, going to be on your Social Security income payments. Because if you start taking out withdrawals from your 403B or a traditional 403B or traditional IRA related account, that could hurt your provisional income calculation, which determines how much of your Social Security income gets taxed. So with 403B accounts, you could either establish them as a traditional pre-tax 403B account, or you could set them up more, newer aged is the post-tax Roth 403B account. That's important to note as you start nearing that retirement stage, because if you're taking dollars from Roth and you're taking Roth withdrawals, those dollars would come to you tax-free, as opposed to monies coming out from the traditional 403B or the traditional IRAs. Those monies would be fully taxable at that point and then really hurt that provisional income from Social Security income. So by being mindful of how those tax status or how that tax qualification works, it could either tremendously help you or hurt you whenever you are given that opportunity to say, hey, I have access to a traditional 403B or a Roth 403B, which portions, which contributions should I segment? And then if I've already built up these buckets, am I eligible to take these dollars out of my traditional 403B and convert them into Roth IRA accounts, or transfer it from Roth 403B accounts into, roll them over into Roth IRA accounts? So, just be mindful that it could be possible, but you have to be careful on how you're pulling it out. You want to make sure you're not taking the monies out too quickly. And from a taxation standpoint, does that expense number, does that match up to your withdrawals after taxes, or do you have to take out more dollars from those withdrawals to incorporate the net amount after taxes? So like what I mean by that is, let's say if somebody's expenses is $80,000 and they decide, hey, I'm going to be taking withdrawals of $80,000, but they're in a 20% tax bracket, well, they're not going to be netting that $80,000 because 20% of that $80,000 has to go to taxes, as opposed to maybe they might need to withdraw $100,000 of withdrawals. And just in that example, I'm not incorporating Social Security and pension income, but let's just say if somebody had a need of taking out $80,000 to correlate to their specific expenses, well, in that example, maybe they need to remove $100,000 minus the 20% taxes to net the $80,000 that they need to make it in line with what that expense gap is. So that's really the concept of it. And really when an individual starts, nearing that retirement date, or they hit that retirement date and they're collecting pension, they're collecting Social Security income, what exactly are those individuals' choices? Well, they could either remain in that 403B account, or they could roll that money out of the 403B into a traditional IRA and customize it, or roll it over into a Roth IRA account and customize that to make sure that everything's in line with what you're trying to see as your ideal retirement, and making sure that you're living every single day without that financial stress, without those deathbed regrets. So what are some of the problems when an individual leaves those monies in the 403B account? What are some of the problems when an individual tries to roll over those dollars? And what are some different things to be mindful of? So what are some of the most common problems with 403B withdrawals? I'm going to try to give examples of each. So the first thing is limited choices of staying. So with the 403B account, we understand how it grows as the contributions, the matching money. That's one side of, think of it like the bucket. And then the opposite side is the rate of return side that's coming back. Well, what determines that rate of return is your investment choices. So if you have a stable value fund, that might be a fixed related account that's set up within that 403B account. You might have an aggressive index fund. That could be another investment option. You might have a moderate fund or different mutual funds that have a combination of stocks and bonds that make up your plethora of eggs in your basket to choose. The problem with 403B accounts, or typically the most common problem, is that there's limitations to that. You might only have 15 to 25 different choices of those investment options. So if you're no longer required to stay in that 403B account, why would you stay in there? Because if you're no longer working there, meaning you're no longer contributing, which therefore means you're no longer getting a match, well, then you're just staying there for restricted 15 to 25 investment options that are determining what your rate of return is on that 403B bucket. So if you're eligible to roll those monies out, you could now customize your opportunity a lot better. If you're saying, hey, I want to just grow this money because my pension and my Social Security income, that's greater than or equal to my expenses. I don't need to create a type of withdrawal strategy or an income related plan. Why would you stay within that 403B plan if you could roll that out and put yourself in now 4,000, 5,000 different investment choices with a customized traditional IRA, or do conversions into customized Roth IRA accounts? Instead of those 15 to 25 eggs in your basket to choose, if you have thousands of now eggs in your basket to choose, you can now cherry pick. You could have things that are very low cost, very high quality. You can make sure it's more in line with what your risk tolerance is, rather than be, handcuffed to those limited choices. And that's something that, because individuals typically, they feel comfortable. It's what they've known. So it's not really necessarily their fault. They've just been doing the same investments and that same wealth accumulation related strategy for the last 10, 20, 30 years as they were working for that employer. So that's all that they know. So they're scared to make that move. But by being scared to make that move, you could be shooting yourself in the foot and hurting yourself and costing yourself thousands of dollars of either growth opportunity or thousands of dollars of more fees or limitations on how to make your retirement situation significantly better. The second problem is running your well dry. So if you have X amount of dollars sitting in your 403B account and you decide, okay, well, I'm just going to stay here and I'm going to have these limited investment options. I'm going to stay on that path with trying to grow my monies, but I have a specific income gap. My pension income, or maybe I'm not offered a pension income stream, so the only cash flow you have throughout retirement is your Social Security income versus what your expenses are, and there's a large gap there. So if you're trying to leverage a growth-related strategy for an income-related need, it could significantly hurt you. It's something known as reverse dollar cost averaging, where you have the combination of fees, you have the combination of downward market loss potential, and you also have the combination of pulling monies from an account, all working with a compound interest negatively against your account. A better option could be taking the monies from the 403B, rolling it over into an IRA or customized IRAs, creating a set income stream, or creating a set income related strategy to say, this strategy is going to accomplish what my gap is. So the combination of my pension, my Social Security, then this customized IRA that has now closed up that gap, that's my baseline. This is something that's going to correlate with what my expenses are, so that it's giving me the peace of mind that I could live every day. If you don't have income in retirement, you don't have a retirement. So if you mess up and you say, okay, well, because I've only known this 403B account and I kind of know that there's only 15 to 25 options to choose, and even though that's a growth strategy, that's fine because I'll just start collecting some money. What's the downside to that? The downside to that is if the market takes a dramatic shift and you're pulling dollars from that, you can run that well dry. You could run out of money. You could, even if you went with that same accumulation strategy and say, oh, I'm going to take the 403B and throw it into the market and roll it over into a traditional IRA that's set up with an aggressive play and a growth-related play, that problem is not going to is not going to go away. That problem is still going to remain there because you're adding on risk and you're adding on an accumulation-related strategy for an income-related need. So that's where you could take slivers of your 403B, you could roll those monies over and take a full 403B, roll it over into an IRA, and then take slivers of that IRA and say, okay, I'm going to customize this for my income-related needs, for my inflationary-related needs, and then whatever's left over, now I want to grow these monies as high as possible, as large as possible, and now I'm going to be able to adapt it to my proper risk tolerance that's being set up in conjunction with equity positions, bond positions, whatever that is, it's going to ebb and flow with the market. You could take on that risk if you have that baseline covered. If you don't have that baseline covered, you're really playing with fire, because what's the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario could be having no more money left, having to significantly reduce what your lifestyle is when you're in your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, because you messed up on that withdrawal related strategy and you ran your well dry. A third negative is not incorporating for Social Security taxation if you start collecting monies from pension or other outside sources that could increase your provisional income on Social Security. So if you're saying, hey, this is great. I, did a budgeting analysis. I know exactly what my expenses are. My pension's $40,000. My Social Security is $30,000, $70,000. I only have about $70,000 of expenses. I'm good. Well, what you didn't, incorporate was that pension's going to be fully taxed based on how much money of that pension and what that affects the provisional income calculation. That can now add further taxation to your Social Security benefit. And therefore, you might now have to start pulling dollars or create an income, an additional gap-related strategy from that 403(b) account. So something that you thought, okay, I could just grow these dollars and just kind of take it out sporadically, that's the ultimate goal. Is once your income needs are covered and your emergency needs are covered, the ultimate goal is to have as much money left over in that growth and that fund-related subset as much as possible. Because if you have the most amount of leftover dollars in that fund account and that vacation account and that inheritance maximization account, you've won that game. But when you completely forego taxation and not incorporate, okay, that's not exactly what my dollar amount's going to net over to me. I have to incorporate this extra 20%, 30%, whatever, based on your specific tax bracket, your specific tax situation, and what the tax rates are at that time. It could, significantly hurt you. So you just want to be mindful of that and make sure that you're adjusting your plan accordingly so that, everything could fit like a perfect puzzle piece and your income is going to be greater than what those expenses are. And the fourth most common negative is just not having a plan. Just saying, hey, I've accumulated this bucket and, hopefully everything works out. That's not having a strategy. That is not having a plan. That is just having a portfolio. You have to be very careful as you start nearing retirement or if you're in retirement to make sure that you do not outlive these savings, that you do not take on too much risk beyond what your appetite for risk is and really have all those monies go away if you mess up that strategy or if you're just kind of going into it blindly and hoping for the best. There should be no time for hope. It should be all about strategic planning so that you have that peace of mind. Okay, I know exactly what's going to be going on. I have this, financial stress is completely eliminated, and now I could just live every single day and do exactly what I've dreamt of. Some different negatives, which I mentioned, I would say if you did the 403(b) rollover into the IRA, like what are some IRA negatives? Well, first off, like limited choices, the IRA could have a large amount of different choices. So sometimes it's overwhelming on those amount of choices and an individual might be too aggressive just because they're trying to chase previous year returns. So that could obviously be a problem. Also, if you're trying to create an accumulation strategy for an income related need, that could obviously be a problem. So you always want to make sure you're segmenting, you're optimizing three main lanes. The first lane being income. Make sure your income needs are covered. Second lane is emergency needs. Make sure those are covered. And third lane is the growth related needs. And those are more of the fund related dollars. So that's really problem number one with IRAs that could come into play. Now, the other aspect is running your well dry. With IRA accounts, if you don't need an income strategy, just as much as I'm harping on, hey, if you don't, you don't want to commingle an accumulation strategy with an income strategy. If you don't need income because your pension and your Social Security is already much greater than or equal to your expenses, even after you're incorporating that taxation play, well, then why would you use an IRA related vehicle specifically segmented for max income? If you don't need to take on more income or more stress or an additional strategy, why would you do that? And that's where a lot of individuals get manipulated. Like they'll leverage annuities, which annuities could be fantastic tools to use for retirement planning, but they'll use annuities, income related annuities, thinking it's a growth related product and thinking it's giving them this sort of growth related guarantee. And that's a manipulation, a marketing technique that a lot of advisors use as off of something known as income riders and the roll-up rates on income riders. So you want to be very, very careful with that. So once again, you just want to segment your lane, optimize your lane, and not get caught up in the noise and make sure that you're treading lightly and avoiding what those landmines are. So what are some different solutions? And really, when you create these strategies correctly, what do those solutions look like? So by understanding a lot of the 403(b) withdrawal rules, some solutions that can occur is you want to optimize your specific goals, which I mentioned. You want to keep the most amount of money in your pocket and the least amount towards advisory related fees and different costs and different risk. So make sure that you're always able to save the most amount of dollars in your pocket, and then make sure that you at least have some sort of 3-tiered strategy. Simply put, 3-thing scenario. I want to make sure that when I stop working, I still have enough cash flows, or I still have an ample amount of different cash flow and different strategies that are going to be greater than or equal to my expenses. Whatever I don't need to use up to close up that gap for that income related need, well, now I could filter those dollars and say, okay, I want to have a fund essentially sitting here, a liquid account that I could pull from at the drop of a hat in case of an oh my gosh situation was to occur. So rule of thumb is this is about 6 to 12 months of whatever your expenses are, you should have in some sort of liquid account. So that could mean an IRA that's just sitting in a money market position, something that's not really at risk, but you could just and not really getting a large rate of return, but just something you could touch whenever you need it. And then lastly, that growth and inflationary related need. So the most important aspect is to try to have as much money left over in that growth inflationary related bucket or different subsets of that bucket. And what that could look like is saying, okay, I'm going to have a sliver of dollars that are going towards purely aggressive. I could have a segment of dollars going towards the highest fixed related accounts for the whatever's paying the highest interest rates right now. I could have another account established for an inheritance maximization. I could have another account established for a type of fixed index related strategy to say, hey, anytime the market's up and I'm receiving gains, maybe we could use that gain to take an extra trip this year or pay for an extra gift for one of my loved ones, my family members. There's so many different uses with it, but just keeping everything consistent and keeping everything optimized, you could have a really good scenario, and by avoiding obviously those mistakes that I've mentioned previously, and just being very mindful and having an actual strategy in place. So some examples that occur when this is done effectively, and you're not just having that big question mark and hoping that everything's going to work out, but you actually have a strategy, you understand the pros, the cons, all of that, and you're creating your plan is, well, what will happen? When you retire, you will not outlive your retirement savings. You will have that peace of mind that those retirement paychecks are constantly coming to you. You never have to go back to work. Live life on your own aspirations. Whatever it is you want to do, you can do. Also, you're never going to be concerned whenever the market drops. If you have certain areas that are padded up correctly and you have them where they do not become hindered with downward market losses, and you're creating income strategies and different things that do not get impacted when the market does, that's going to give you further peace of mind. Also, individuals know how to spend money a certain way. They've been doing it for multiple decades. Once they hit their retirement stage, they're scared that they're going to have to significantly reduce their standard of living, significantly reduce their lifestyle. When this is done effectively, you don't have to worry about that because you've incorporated what your current budget was when you were working versus what your retirement budget is when you're no longer working. You're making sure that everything, all the math checks out. And then really, what I believe every individual deserves is to live every single day without financial stress, without deathbed regrets. When doing this the right way, that's exactly what you could have. So if you found value in this video and you'd like to speak to one of our specialists or even myself, you could simply give our 1-800 number a call. It's 1-800-566-1002. Make sure to reference this video so we get the correct advisor on the line with you. Or you could either schedule a call directly through our calendar link, which is embedded in the description of this video. And we're offering a free 20-minute connection call to any individual that's, that obviously viewed this and they want to hear further information and really are just a little bit nervous about the different things mentioned, and they just want to have more clarity with their situation. There's many times we deal with individuals and we just basically say, hey, listen, this is something that we can't help you out with. This is something that, you're on the correct path already and you should not be making any other changes. And then there's other individuals that we definitely help out with. That's more for the individual that's just nervous. They're nervous about outliving their retirement savings. They're nervous about downward market losses. They're nervous that they're going to significantly have a lifestyle change and change their expenses or change what their cash flow streams are once they hit those retirement years. And they just don't know how to stop working. They don't know the date on when they should stop working and really start living the retirement they envision. So that's something that we really help out with. I want to thank you very much for watching this video. Please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Retire Sharp, so you can have access to the most updated videos. Thanks so much, guys.